I spend a lot of time poring through spell descriptions, wondering how the intelligent, abundant mages of a D&D world might make their lives inordinately easier, or spur industrial revolutions, or change the face of global logistics. So it baffles me to no end that I have always overlooked Mending, a spell which can fix most things with almost no effort at all. I firmly believe that the existence of the Mending spell completely eliminates an entire class of workers and practices in society, and single-handedly solves the Ship of Theseus problem while we're at it. So join me today as we explore how the Mending cantrip renders a plurality of guild craft workers entirely obsolete. We're going to start with what Mending can do. Given 1 minute of casting time, a spellcaster touches a single break or tear in an object while handling 2 lodestones and chanting. And that fracture is fixed, leaving no trace of the damage at all as long as the break is less than 1 foot wide in any direction. As a cantrip, this can be cast with no resource expenditure except the minute of time by the most inexperienced mages, as long as they have the willingness and focus to do so. That, over an 8-hour stint of casting this spell, is up to 480 things mended, all fixed without any expression of traditional craftsman's skills, and also without any weak points or points of future failure like traditional craft mending tends to leave. The spell even works on magic items. 1,000-year-old sword of prophecy and fortune shattered in a battle against a fated foe? Even if it breaks in 10 different places, that sword is as good as new in about 10 minutes. Every craftsman throughout human history, and many regular people, especially women in domestic settings historically, have been involved in fixing broken possessions. From a torn shirt to a snapped plough to a splintered chair leg. As long as the damage we're looking at is a break or tear in an object, and as long as that break or tear is less than 1 foot wide in any dimension, the original form of the object can be restored perfectly. I will say, this is a specific type of damage. If your shoe comes apart from its sole, or you manage to poke a hole in it, these do constitute tears or breaks. However, a dented plough or blade, or a burned shirt, has no such luck. This type of damage is going to need specialist help. I'm not sure I can, though, think of many uses for a cobbler in a world that has mending. At least metalworkers will still have to sharpen old, dull tools and forge new pieces. The poor cobblers need to really produce 1 set of very thick, sturdy boots per adult, and said adult can take their boots to the local temple every few months or years to essentially get them resold or fix any holes that might be present. The amount of certain types of craftspeople in a D&D world may be decimated. Perhaps sort of literally. Seamstresses, cobblers, leatherworkers, shipwrights, and likely many more would have a significant reduction in the amount of jobs they get, thereby shrinking those industries massively, as most of the jobs will be making something new, or fixing very specific types of damage. For people like glassworkers and potters, that amount of jobs may be even lower. At a certain point, everyone has enough pots and glasses that you're only really selling for trends, gifts, or specific special interests like custom alchemical supplies, or display cases, or windows and things of that description. Frankly, I fear that after a certain point of the normalisation of mending across the world, the bottom may just not exist in a variety of craft professions, turning the crafts generally from popular avenues to gain training and elevate one's social status into sort of a comfortable class of business owner, turning them into a niche custodian of a less and less necessary traditional craft. But how would that all actually look? How much would mending change how everyday processes work? I want to start, strangely, with war. Imagine, if you will, a battering ram crashing into a great oak gate of a city, cracking the wood with each impact, cracks which are melded back together moments later by acolytes holding their mending hands against the other side of this gate. Or a ship, hull peppered with cannon shot or torn asunder by rocks. A foot-long gash is certainly enough to be taking on water, and maybe enough to sink a vessel if left unfixed. A mere cantrip to fix a cannon hole in a ship? Or perhaps in the process of battle, a knight's visor is battered, bashed in and split, making it impossible for said knight to see. Or perhaps the straps holding his armour together are cut or intentionally severed. A minute's retreat and even the simplest of spellcasting puts that to right. Cracked catapults, torn sails, broken rigging, frayed rope, and broken axles fixable in a single minute. This is clearly game-changing, and it's very likely in such a world that we'd see far less in terms of manufacture and far more in terms of just magical maintenance being the normal way to redo a thing. Furthermore, military and logistical supply lines may need to spend much less time and effort carrying supplies with them to fix problems exactly like a broken axle, say. But you can't magically mend wear and tear. Well, tears, yes, but wear is the real problem. The tragedy of having the means to fix broken things without cost is that you must watch it wear and waste away. It's likely that this mending-based economy would look to build blades and walls and floors and ships with a little bit of extra tolerance, a little bit thicker than normal. Or perhaps they'd rather nail weaker woods over the main body of an object as sort of a protective measure. It's better to have your floor crack than have it undergo generational wear. Brittle second floors above main floors and surfaces may become the norm in a world where fixing something brittle that's broken is easy. We may even see fashion trends leading towards fancy-looking brittle veneers, like a layer of glass placed on top of things, or a preponderance of thin marble and stone veneers more likely to crack than have any wear on the surface below. But speaking of stone, there is one trick that mending does lend itself to, which may truly revolutionise how fantasy worlds work. So we've established that you can mend together materials that were together and now broken apart, as long as the cracks that you're trying to mend specifically are no greater than a foot in length. This, to me, implies a fascinating potential building technique: transplanted stone. Let's say you work in a stone quarry. If you can shear stone to a size of less than a foot on every single individual side, and you can keep those stones ordered and documented, you should, in theory, be able to move all these individual little cubes of stone to a new place, reassemble the blocks like a jigsaw, and mend the stones back together into the natural stone wall that they used to be. Just all moved to a new location. This would be a tedious effort, but the benefits would be incredible. It's a wall held together without any mortar, made of thick, completely joined up stone, purely natural. It's an absolute marvel of magical logistics. I genuinely see very few reasons why this wouldn't work within the rules of the mending spell as presented, except, of course, if my mechanical understanding of stoneworking means that such a feat of organisation and stone cutting to very specific processes would be impossible. You could, I guess, argue that the object in question is a wall of stone, not a specific stone block. If this is the interpretation, then any breaks would be longer than 1 foot cumulatively across multiple of our little cubes. And everything I'm about to suggest is nonsense. It does raise Ship of Theseus-esque questions, though. If you just break a hand off of a statue that's already been cut in half in its torso, could you then mend the hand back onto the arm? You should be able to. If a chip comes off of a block of stone that's already been cut to size, could you mend this little chip back on? Can you never mend natural stone at all because that stone has fissures and cracks running through it because it's natural? I would contend that mending or reattaching stone 1A to 1B, and then to stone 2A, and then to stone 2B, and then mending stone 2B to 1B creates a continuous cube of completely melded stone. And none of the individual castings of Mending require an attachment of more than 1 foot. With sufficient math skills, I'm confident that you could plot a path to reconstruct any object from slices of itself, cubes of itself, that are less than 1 by 1 by 1 foot, without needing to meld together any side of more than 1 foot at a time. But genuinely, that sounds a bit too much like a problem proof in geometric mathematics. So I'll leave the speculation there. But if it is possible, then this form of cold stone welding might not just get used to move stones from natural quarries to cities in, any sort of thickness walls you desire, but it might get used on smaller scales too. With this spell, if you can cut it well and precisely enough, you can theoretically transport an object of any size. Well, that is if you're good at cataloguing pieces or putting together very strange jigsaws. Okay, so you can hack an expensive and fabulously carved statue into small cubes to make it able to be carried to a new pedestal easier? Big deal, really. Except that cubes of objects less than 1 foot on any dimension just so happen to fit very easily through the opening of a bag of holding, which oh so conveniently makes things virtually weightless and massively increases a normal person's carrying capacity. This seems mad and counterintuitive, to tear, say, a 60-foot long tapestry to shreds, but you very likely save labour in the long run. And with the amount of religious acolytes or apprentice wizards knocking about, using their time to reconstitute priceless artefacts isn't that much of a waste either. Call it a devotional exercise, and you can have a 60-foot by 60-foot tapestry done in 60 days of 8-hour work shifts. Or a 30-foot tall statue, 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep, done in 50 days. Again, leaving no trace of the former damage. Finally, Mending is also an archaeologist's dream, as well as a treasure hunter's, I guess. Find all the pieces of a priceless ancient artifact, and you have a mendable ancient jigsaw. A shattered magic crystal, at the centre of a city of magic, shattered in the war that broke their empire, and also their crystalline source of power. Well, that's not going to stay broken forever. If it shatters into pieces that are less than 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, well, that shattered crystal can very easily be unshattered. And if it's not broken into such small pieces, we'll best start getting the chisel and the cataloguing sheet out. And remember, this mending magic explicitly does work on any magical object, although it may not restart magic that has been ended by the destruction of an item. A wand of untold power split across 7 nations' leaders to ensure it never gets used again. Steal those pieces and you can remake the wand, perhaps even re-enabling its magic if said magic wasn't destroyed in the original sundering. Suffice it to say, Mending is a spell with significant impact, and this is without mentioning that it's among the only ways to heal construct creatures. The thing is, repairs are such a massive part of a crafting life that this spell is already a potent poison to established crafting or gilded classes. Add into that its potential for revolutionising stonecraft, mortarless, seamless stones, ship repair, and even the transport of large objects, and you get a world where a breakage or a tear is the least possible inconvenience. Just visit your local temple. But also, paradoxically, you get a world where wear and aging must be safeguarded against seriously and properly, because that magic can't fix. You can fix something broken, but you can't fix something that has been well worn down to nothing. And that is going to have significant social implications on every culture that can use mending. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love diving into the implications of spells just like this. If you can think of any more potential consequences of mending just existing in a world, or if you want to vehemently disagree with my interpretation of the deconstruction and reconstruction of things using perfect mending, get in the comments. But with all that said, I've been Tom, otherwise known as the Grungeonmaster. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.